What's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another monthly reading wrap-up video. In the month of November, I read 19 books. I'm going to go over them, tell you what I thought of them, a quick little summary. We've got thriller, we've got mystery, we've got more thriller, and there's a little bit of fantasy. Some of these I absolutely loved, so buckle up, let's get right into it. The first ones I'm going to talk about, we are going to knock 4 out in one shot because all 4 of these are pretty much part of a series. This is a detective series from Charly Cox, and I was absolutely obsessed with this series this entire month. I started out the month reading all his Pretty Girls. This is the very first book in the series, although they do all work as standalones, but it's better to read them in order. So the first book, you're introduced to Detective Alyssa Wyatt. Her and her partner are investigating multiple cases that they think are all connected, where women are going missing, and one specific woman turns up barely alive, very battered, and everything seems to be connected. Let me say this, detective crime thrillers like this often are very slow for me. It takes a lot to get me invested in a story like this. I feel like I usually want them to be more intricate, more fast-paced. All of that happened in this book. I was obsessed with this, and when I tell you this is the best twist in a mystery detective thriller book I've ever read, I loved this. After I finished this book, I DNF'd several books because I just couldn't get into anything else, and that is when I picked up book 2 and was immediately hooked on this one also. This one was super dark and not for the faint of heart. You're following the same detective on a new case. This was honestly unputdownable for me. I also tandem read all of these on audio, and the narrator was amazing. I love this whole series. Book 3 was Alone in the Woods. I ate this one up also. I feel like each one of these had a great plot twist, and the details of the plot were very intricate. Book 4 is The Devil's Playground. I also ate this one up. This one was also really dark. I feel like they progressively got darker and darker. But these books made me feel like this author has to have some sort of past as a detective, because how can you plot these stories out so well and make it just so realistic and so believable? Fantastic job. There is 2 more books, I believe, in this series that I will most likely be reading in December. Next, I read Her Number 1 Fan by Abby Davies. This book was just very silly. I ended up not liking this one very much at all, although it started out really strong. A quick summary, it's about a woman who is kidnapped from her own home and held captive by a young man and his grandma. The woman they kidnapped is an actress on a very well-known medical TV show, and she plays the part of a surgeon. Think like Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy. They kidnapped her so that she can perform surgery on grandma and remove a cancerous tumor that she has, but she's just an actor. The plot of this, I will admit, had me hooked. I thought it was awesome, but the story just kind of kept getting like more and more far-fetched, and this main character unfortunately had 0 survival instincts, and she was pissing me off. So this one was a no for me. I did an ARC read of Dear Debbie by Freida McFadden. This book doesn't release until January 27th. This book was awesome. I loved this. I actually did a reading vlog of this book that I'll be posting soon. This was just so good. It follows a woman who is a wife, a mom, a neighbor, a friend, but she is also a part-time advice columnist. For years, she's been using her advice column to give advice to women who were obviously abused, battered, and just very down. But when things in Debbie's own life start taking a very negative turn, she says it's time to start taking her own advice, but only in a more sinister fashion. I loved everything about this book. It cracks me up. This was a really good one. Such a Good Wife by Seraphina Nova Glass. I have recently been falling in love with this author. This is the second book that I read from her, and I loved it. I can't wait to read more. This one follows a woman who is a great wife and a great mother on the outside, but secretly she is having an affair. And when the person she's having an affair with is found dead in his own home, she now has to hide every bit of evidence that she possibly can to erase this affair from her life so that nobody finds out that she had a connection to him. This one just had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I'm excited to read more books from her. I have heard that The Vacancy in Room 10 is a really good one, so that might be my next read, but she has several books, so I have my work cut out for me. Then I read The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. This was a newer release this month, and this one was a lot of fun. It follows a trad wife in the 1950s who's pretty much suffering from the baby blues. When a new family moves in next door, she starts getting strange vibes from them, and she's just kind of on high alert, adding to all of the stress that she's already going through. This is very domestic and psychological. Reading this one kept me on edge, like I kept anticipating a very big plot twist at the end. However, I will say that the ending of this I have deemed as being actually very sad. This was definitely a good book. It kind of like kept my mind at work, and I felt like it was really unique. Keep This For Me by Jennifer Fawcett. This one was just okay for me. It started out so strong. When I first started reading this book, I honestly thought that it was going to be a 5-star read, and then unfortunately it slowly started to lose me, and by the end of it I was just kind of ready for it to be over. That sounds terrible. It was still good, and I feel like with the right audience, a lot of people will love this book. I did still rate it 3.5 stars. It follows a woman who, when she was 2 years old, her mother had gone missing. Her mom and dad's car broke down, they pulled over, some random guy came to give them help, the father got away, and the mother just disappeared. The person responsible has been in jail since. However, you also get to follow the point of view of that man's son, which I felt like put a really unique perspective on the entire story. It's been 30 years since her mother went missing, but the man in jail continues to say that he didn't kill her, and so Fiona finds herself diving back into the mystery of whatever happened to her mother. I felt like this one was just very well done, and it really did have me hooked, like I said, in the very beginning, but ultimately, I don't know if it was a me problem or a book problem, but I started to lose interest, and then it just kind of fell flat. But like I said, with the right audience, I for sure think that this would be a great read. So if this sounds interesting to you, definitely give it a try if you like this style of thriller. A Nearly Normal Family by M.T. Edvardsson. I don't know how to say hardly anyone's last name, to be honest, but I loved this book. This is actually a Netflix series, but this was actually a really fun book. I could not put this one down. It's a courtroom style of thriller. The father is a pastor, the mother is a criminal defense attorney, and the 18-year-old daughter has just been accused of murder. The story is told in all three of their point of views, but part one is from the dad's point of view, and then you have the daughter's point of view, then you have the mother's point of view. So you're getting three sides of the story, and I felt like the layout of this was just so well done. Reading from the father's point of view literally just put a pit in my stomach. I also felt like each one of the characters' point of views carried like a different tone to the book. Overall, like I said, it was just really well done. The courtroom scenes in this were jaw-dropping. Like, I was on the edge of my seat, literally. This was so good. I highly recommend. I should probably watch the Netflix series of this because it was just so good. Up in Smoke by Nick Brooks. I loved this one. This really reminded me of Tiffany D. Jackson's writing style, which you guys know that I absolutely love her books so much, and this was very comparable. It was also a really short read. Technically, this is a YA thriller, but I felt like it dealt with a lot of adult topics. It follows a young man who is convinced by someone he looks up to join them on a looting spree during a protest. He reluctantly agrees, but during the protest, someone ends up shot and killed, and now he and his group of friends might be suspects in that murder. This is the type of book that you could read in one sitting, not just because it's short, but because it really is a page-turner. It dealt with topics like discrimination and social justices. It had very heavy emphasis on friendships and loyalty. There was a little bit of romance thrown in there as well, and I feel like this one had a great twist. I loved this one. I would definitely read another book from this author without hesitating. The Night That Finds Us All by John Hornor Jacobs. This unfortunately was my least favorite book of the bunch. I really thought I was gonna love this because it's about like a haunted ship. We follow Sam, who is a recovering alcoholic. She's really down on her luck. She has no money to fix her broken boat. When an old friend comes back into her life and offers her an opportunity to make a lot of money, and what she needs to do is join a crew and sail this really large ship from Seattle all the way to England, and there's a huge amount of money involved if the ship is delivered. The only catch is that this ship is notoriously haunted. At first, I really did love the female main character in this. Sam was very flawed, very morally gray. She also had one of those personalities that was very snarky and resilient. That's one of my favorite types of characters to read about. But unfortunately, the story did fall flat, and I found the ending to be very boring, which was unfortunate because it was a short book. I loved the idea of the haunted ship. I really did enjoy the main character, but something just got lost along the way, so this one wasn't for me. June in the Garden by Eleanor Wilde was one of my favorite reads though. I don't know what I was expecting going into this book, but it absolutely was not this, and I loved this. I highly recommend the audio because it was brought to life in the audio. It follows 22-year-old June, who thrives on routine. The book describes her as neurodivergent. She sees the world completely different from everyone. She does not pick up on social cues, and without those very specific routines that she has established for herself, everything falls to pieces. And when her mom passes away, June is left on her own, and all of her routines are out of whack. She decides that she's gonna go and find her birth father. The only problem is that she's never met him before. This book was absolutely fantastic. It explores the idea of how we naturally react to people that we know nothing about. It explores how defensive we could be without even really realizing it, how we don't really step into other people's shoes very often to try and understand what life might be like from their point of view. Like, it was just a beautiful, very well done book. I ate this up. I loved it so much. It is so unique. June reminded me of Sally from Strange Sally Diamond, although this is not a thriller at all. They kind of had that same perspective on life. Not a single dull moment in this entire book and audiobook. I was entertained the entire time. I read A Storm in Every Heart by Kate King. This is part of a series, but both do work as a standalone. And this is kind of a retelling of The Little Mermaid. It follows Odessa, who's a siren, but she has not been near the water in a very long time. The story goes that years ago, Odessa saved the crown prince from drowning, and ever since then, she thought they would be destined to be together, but instead they have had a very head-butting relationship this entire time. However, when someone from a rival court wants to marry her, he does not like that. We've got broody, protective energy in this book. If you like fantasy retellings, I think you'll enjoy this one. It's a very quick read, and like I said, it works as a standalone. In preparation for Brimstone, I did reread Quicksilver. Listen, friends, I loved Quicksilver. This was one of my favorite fantasy reads. I ate this book up. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline. I loved Carrion. I loved the way this book ended. Everything about it was so good. Both times I read it, I felt the same. Brimstone was a hot mess. I don't know what this book was, but I did not enjoy this. This was 660 pages of literally nothing happening. I have a whole review of this up over on my TikTok channel, and I don't normally like review books that I didn't love. Aside from like in these little wrap-up videos, I don't go into detail about books that I didn't love, but this one I did just because I feel like this was such a bummer because I feel like maybe the publisher rushed the author to put this book out, and because of it, it suffered. It had a lot of different plot points going on and trying to take different directions, and I feel like each one of them kind of amounted to nothing, and then the ending had nothing to do with any of them. That's pretty much all I'll say about this one. I'm still a huge fan of Quicksilver. I will absolutely still read the third book when it comes out. I'm not a hater like that, and I do love the characters. I'm already invested, but this one, I feel like second books just in a series just never do it for me. To All Those I've Killed Before by J.L. Hyde. This book was recommended by one of my favorite authors, and so I had to jump on it right away because this author here has been recommended to me a few times and I haven't read any of her books yet. This is the first one that I read. This was awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It follows the story of a girl whose aunt is about to pass away. She has terminal cancer, and on her deathbed, she has stories of her life that she's never told anyone that she wants to get off her chest and tell her niece. The aunt is somewhat of a serial killer, and she's recounting these stories to her niece, and you're just kind of following along. The storytelling in this was immaculate. So, so good. It kept me turning the pages. I was so invested. The way that this author writes characters is 100% something special. I highly recommend this book, not to mention that the aunt was just one of my favorite types of characters to read about. She also had that snarky attitude. She was resilient. She had dark humor. She was always making jokes about the situation, even though it was so sad. She was tough as nails, no nonsense, and she told it like it is. Love, 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 love. I can't wait to read another book from this author. Next, I read Good Intentions by Brandon Massey. This book has been recommended to me several times. I'm so glad I finally read it. I actually have a copy of this one and the last one on the way because I love them both so much I need physical copies. This one follows a guy named Nate, and 30 years ago, he and his best friend, when they were 12 years old, were inseparable. However, the last time they saw each other was the day that his best friend killed his abusive stepfather. All these years later, they run into each other again. And his friend has obviously lived a very rough life, and he's very in need of a helping hand. This book is short and fast-paced. It's also the type of book that pisses you off, but like also you can't stop reading it. That's all I'm gonna say about this one. It's definitely worth your time. It's also on Kindle Unlimited if you want to give it a try. I loved this one. I want to read more from this author as well. The last one that I have is Blood Sisters by Vanessa Lillie, and this book was okay for me. I did enjoy a lot of aspects about it, but ultimately I did feel like it was a little bit slow for my taste. It's an Indigenous novel and it follows a woman who is an archaeologist. They discover some bones and it kind of opens up a case. Meanwhile, we also have a missing persons case, which happens to be her sister. There's a lot of past family trauma, especially with all of the other people in their community. The story is definitely very intricate. However, I felt like it focused more on her personal trauma and her personal like family and the people in the community more than it focused on the case. I don't know, something just was a little bit slow for me. It's hard to put my finger on. I still do think this was a great book. It was just a little bit slower than I wanted it to be for the time that I read it. That's it, friends. That's all the books that I read in the month of November. It was such a good month. I hate to say this, but I can't believe how fast time flies. I'm so excited for December. I want to do some videos about like my favorite reads of the year and just fun things like that. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to see more future content from me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.